Essentially, if you're here illegally or just passing through and you have a child, under the plain meaning and language of the Constitution and federal law, as highlighted in this executive order by President Trump, which is an extraordinary development in terms of our understanding and application of immigration law and the laws of citizenship, you don't get to make your child a citizen by having them here in the United States. They remain a non-citizen. Then on top of that, he filed all these executive orders that rein in so much of the damaging activity of that's been happening not only during the Biden administration, but from 40, 50, 60 years back, that began with Lyndon Johnson, for instance, his executive order that essentially mandated a race-based affirmative action, naked quotas and discrimination, that hasn't been rescinded for decades, and Trump rescinded it. And so here are the executive orders. I think we printed all of them from the website, so there's got to be at least 60 plus here by now, right? I think it's 50. It's like 50 something. And so I pulled out a few of them. Just I want to go through them. So this is the one he signed first off in the video: initial rescissions of harmful executive orders and actions. And I encourage you to go to the website of the White House, thewhitehouse.gov, and look at all the executive orders. They're accessible. They're pretty easy to find. It says executive orders and actions on the first page, as I recall. And just go through and read them, and you can see the detail that I may not be able to get to here. But this first order that he had signed, or at least one of the first ones I thought he had signed, it goes through, as he says, dozens of crazed Biden orders to install really neo-Marxist and socialist authoritarian style efforts by the Biden administration to control, expand control over our liberties and our lives and our economy and our freedoms. I mean, I'm going to give you a few of these executive orders that were rescinded just in one order. Ensuring a sustainable public health workforce. Sustainable, you know what that's code for, left wing. Reforming our incarceration system to eliminate the use of privately operated criminal detention facilities. So he wants to close prisons. This is what Biden was trying to do. Creating a comprehensive regional framework to address the causes of migration. Remember, that was where Kamala was made borders are. Promoting access to voting, which means increasing opportunities for voter fraud. That's the left way of describing that. Eliminated or rescinded by President Trump. Establishment of the Presidential Commission on the Supreme Court of the United States, and that was a commission designed to undermine the Supreme Court of the United States. Diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility in the federal workforce. DEI mandates. White House initiative on advancing educational equity for Black Americans. More communism, Marxism, catalyzing clean energy industries and jobs through federal sustainability. I mean, go through and look at the list here. And Trump, in the stroke of a pen, undid Biden's strokes of the pen in a way that gets this country back on track in terms of the rule of law. The money saved as a result of rescinding these EOs is going to be enormous. And that means less government spending, and less government spending means less inflation necessarily. So that's another good thing. Here's another executive order. Hiring freeze. That's pretty easy to understand. Regulatory freeze pending review. So the enormous numbers of regulations imposed by Biden, that is taxed the economy to the tune of well over $1 trillion. That was the last number I saw. There it is. Regulatory freeze pending review. All of that's been shut down, at least temporarily. Protecting the meaning and value of American censorship. This is a biggie. As Trump likes to say, this is a big one. What does this one do? It says that it's the policy of the federal government. I'll read it. The 14th Amendment states, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, that's the key phrase, are citizens of the United States wherein they reside. And there's similar language in the federal law. The federal law essentially just mimics that very language. Among the categories of individuals born in the United States and not subject to the jurisdiction thereof, the privilege of United States citizenship does not automatically extend to persons born in the United States when that person's mother was unlawfully present and the father was not a United States citizen or lawful permanent resident. When that person's mother's presence in the United States at the time of said person's birth was lawful but temporary, such as but not limited to visiting the United States under the auspices of the visa waiver program or on a student, work, or tourist visa, and the father was not a United States citizen or lawful permanent resident at the time of said person's birth. So essentially, if you're here illegally or just passing through and you have a child under the plain meaning and language of the Constitution and federal law, as highlighted in this executive order by President Trump, which is an extraordinary development in terms of our understanding and application of immigration law and the laws of citizenship, you don't get to make your child a citizen by having them here in the United States. They remain a non-citizen. It is the policy of the United States that no department or agency of the U.S. government shall issue documents recognizing U.S. citizenship for persons as I described above. Now, the left is furious about that. A federal court judge went ballistic and temporarily restrained President Trump's ruling, EO in that regard. But I want to talk more about this because it's my view that based on the text of the Constitution, the original understanding of what the phrase there, citizen, what is a natural born citizen and subject to, as I say, all persons born and naturalized in the United States, not as I say, as the Constitution says, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. What does that mean, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof? All persons are born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. So why do they have that caveat there and subject to the jurisdiction thereof? What does that mean? Well, obviously with the 14th Amendment, the key issue at the time, given the federal law, the Civil Rights Act passed right after the Civil War, was to provide citizenship to slaves and their descendants. So if you're a slave, you're here in the United States, they wanted to provide citizenship, and obviously this is a way to do it. But at the time, they also recognized, given the fact we're a constitutional republic, not a feudal state, that just because you're born here doesn't mean that, especially if you're, for instance, an invading army or a foreign diplomat, I mean, you generally have, the court has, I would say, not the court, every person here in the United States has, the government has some type of jurisdiction over, right? Even a diplomat. But no one would say a diplomat's son born here or daughter in the United States, given the fact they're not subject to the jurisdiction and the kind of the broadest understanding of the word, would be deemed a citizen. And if that's the case, why would an unlawfully present person be deemed to have the same type of allegiance to the United States as a citizen or even someone permanently domiciled here, meaning having a green card? So as I look at this, it looks like the precedent, because there was this famous Supreme Court case that evaluated this, that seemed to suggest that only citizens that, or at least the ruling on this specific phrase, was contingent on the parents being lawfully here, even though they were non-citizens. So if you're here lawfully for 10 years, you have a child, even though you're not citizens, the court found that you are, your child, gains the benefit of birthright citizenship. And the idea that it would be controversial to deny birthright citizenship to illegal aliens having children here is just, to me, a head scratcher. And I think, despite the caterwauling, as I like to say, of the left about this EEO, I think it's going to be, I'm not sure it will be upheld, the analysis by the Supreme Court, but I think it's going to be upheld by the Supreme Court. I could be wrong. There could be some weak sisters on the Supreme Court, and they, on the conservative side, who get too nervous about this. I don't know what the usual suspects in that area will do. But this is a pretty straightforward legal analysis and constitutional and policy analysis. The last number I saw, illegal aliens have 153,000 children a year or so in the United States. Talk about an incentive for illegal alien invasions of the United States. Get here, you have a child, and they are citizenship. And other countries do that, but they're basically loser countries, with all due respect. It's Canada and all these small countries here in the Western Hemisphere. No one in Europe does it. No serious country does it. And to the degree we do it, we're not being serious about our citizenship. So I'm glad President Trump did it, and we'll participate to the degree we're able in the legal fights about it. But it's a common sense approach by President Trump that unless you're here legally, in a permanent way as a non-citizen, if you have a child, your child is not an automatic citizen. Obviously, citizenship inures to your children if you're already citizens of the United States. But the idea that someone crossing the border illegally can have a child and the child immediately becomes a citizen, it's an absurd result. Now, there may be policy reasons for allowing that, but you'd have to change the Constitution. You really would have to change the Constitution. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like our video down below.